Hello, I'm Glenn W. Hunter, and with me today is Tamika Carter and Shor Denny. And we're representing TIPS, i.e., Trauma Improved Prevention Services of the Inland Empire. And what we're talking about today is reclosing. And as many people know that here in California, we opened, we reclosed, and now we're trying to deal with the trauma. So what we're doing is examining reclosing economics versus health. What's this trade-off about? And to jump right in, I want to bring in the fact that there is this tension. So in this environment, what are the pluses and minuses of parents staying at home? And Tamika, I'd like to hear your comments on this one.
It's awful. So the pluses and minuses. Plus, we'll start with the plus. You got more time with your kids. You got more time to get to know your kids, their routines, their habits, the things that they have learned from you that you didn't even realize that they were paying attention to. I know even with my own kids, I've had a lot of really, really great conversations about spiritual matters, about education, life, values, and purpose. And these are things that before maybe we had a quick moment to talk about, but we've really been able to have some great in-depth conversations, which does in some way mean I'm educating them, right? However, my youngest is actually currently in school now, and it's very tough, very, very tough. So that is probably one of the minuses. A lot of parents right now are really struggling. I think nearly 60% of parents have reported that there has been a shift or a problem in their just daily functioning. And so a lot of people are really struggling with that. The Kaiser Family Foundation came out with a really good report back in April, actually. And it says that of families who are dealing with disruptions because of being at home or having to work from home or other things that are going on related to the coronavirus, men and women are both going through it. About 32% of men are saying they're experiencing mental health issues due to family disruptions. And women, of course, are looking at about 57%. So almost twice as much often women are experiencing or reporting that they're experiencing mental health concerns related to the stress and worry of now being home with children under the age of 18. So this is moving really fast. It means that we have to actually pay attention to our kids again. When we talk about children ages 12 to 17, we do know that one of the top leading causes of death in this group is suicide. We do know that nearly 10% of kids have a mental illness or are struggling with some sort of emotional disorder. And so with those combination of factors, we have stressed out parents, we have, kids who are isolated, and we of course know that social isolation can lead to depression. We do have a lot that we're managing. And so again, I just say it's right now, it is really important to be in tune with your kids. I have joked around that I'm dropping out of school for my kid because I think mental health is more important than plus minus right now. And that's just that's my individual opinion. But for parents who are juggling, work and kids and emotions and isolation and health, scares, I think right now is just the time to ground ourselves, to commit to just loving ourselves and loving our children and being open and honest with them. And that's just kind of what I'm seeing.
I mean, I think that's a comprehensive viewpoint on it. There's a lot going on in there. Short, would you have a response to some of the points Tamika raised?
No, she's hitting it right on. I mean, that's exactly it. We're able to spend more time with our families. This is actually, it could be a blessing in some instances that we are beginning to see and learning more about who our families are, right? We're starting to see a little more of who we are because we're having to deal with our families. We're starting to see a lot more of what this community means to us, what's going on in our nation means more to us right now. I think right now is a great time to reflect. Now, on the other side of that is all the chaos, right? Oh my God, the kids are home, right? Oh my goodness, I can't go to work. I want to go to lunch, right? Where can we go? What is going on? I've seen my walls for how long? And my backyard, if I have to go back there one more time to say that I went outside, for my mind, then, it doesn't even help anymore going to my backyard. We're tired. We are not really those creatures of mundaneship, right? We human beings, we need some change. We all have jobs, other things. We had schedules. We had play dates. Our kids had drama, and they had, all of these. We had lives. We were aspiring to things. College students were trying to graduate and now are looking in limbo in their second junior year. They're sitting there like, what in the world is going to happen? I think there's a lot of mental stress.
I think the point you brought up too about juggling, right? The job, the work, the spouse, all of that is real. And so, I do office in my room now. Where's the separation? Where do I get to, before as a mom, came home, I sat in my car for about 30 minutes hiding from my children. And I put on mom, right? And I put on those things, and I put on the patience, and I put on, I took off my CEO pumps, and I put on my mom slippers. And there's not that anymore. It's just, I might have a kid knock on my door in the next 5 minutes. And so that time that we needed to transition, to recalibrate, to change, not personality, but kind of change our communication style, all the different switching that we do to work with the different people in our lives, it's not happening. Now we're talking to our kids like they're our employees, and we're talking to our employees like they're kids. And some people do that anyway. Not a good idea. But it's hard as a mom, and I mean I might be in that 57% where it's like, whoa.
I think it's important to realize that when you start talking about the impact that it has on family, there is the mom perspective, that that not even a homemaker, that triple threat where you're a homemaker, you're a wife, and you're a mom. I mean, all enrolled into one. And now all of a sudden, this extra pressure comes down that, all right, now we all have to not just exist, but really get along and coexist much longer than we're used to. I know from a male point of view, some of the challenges I'm hearing from my peers is the fact that we're here, and now what do I do? I mean, I'm used to maybe being more distant or more poured into a career, or just having more time where I can come in and helicopter in and out with a little less stress. And now that has been removed. So I think that there is that piece where mom and dad now are looking at each other, and it's like, okay, I'm seeing you more than I'm used to, and I'm not sure what to say, and there's internal stress involved with this. So I think it manifests in some unexpected ways also.
All across the board, and just think of our poor kids, right? I mean, they are used to not having us in their faces. Usually when the kids are around, and you see them, you're making them do chores, or there's some reason they should be doing something when we see them, right, other than what they're doing, and we've got to correct that. So just thinking that my kids are stressed, I'm stressed, my husband's stressed, right? One of us is going through depression, one of us is in anxiety at the moment. My kids are just all over the place, right? But in the same day, I can have them depressed and anxious and fainting, in the same day. So how do we deal with our own individual mental wellness while we're trying to, deal with the job and the kids and the spouse and because a lot of our families, they have that, the mother-in-law, the father, that other generation that is in the home. How are we thought that this was going to be short term. When you and I started these COVID conversations, Glenn, we were like, oh yeah, we were talking about the stress then, like, oh my gosh, figuring in a month, 2 months. We are now from January, we are now in our 6th month, right? From the time that they shut down, my daughter's college kicked her out in March. Mm-hmm. We are here from March. She's still in limbo. She is totally stressed. She don't know what she's going to do because the schools don't know what they're going to do. Therefore, I don't know what I'm going to do, right? Because isn't that what our parents are going through? My kid's not going to school. I can't go to work, right? Glenn, for what you were saying, and if I can't go to work,
then what? Yeah, then what? I'm really glad that you shared that, because I think it's so easy as ourselves being in the mental health field and being practitioners to think that we got it together, and this is crazy. And we talk about in our community so much how we normalize trauma, normalize gunshots, normalize someone being killed, normalize daddy being gone, and someone's been locked up in and out. We just sit with all this trauma We have aces of 7 and above, and are walking through life like we don't. And it's coming and it's affecting our relationships. And so I think it's so important as practitioners, as professionals, to be able to say, like, yeah, I struggle with anxiety myself. And there are days that are mental health days. And I think that is so important that everyone right now realize, if you have a down day, then just take it. Take it, because it's gonna, if you don't, it's going to bleed over into the next day and the next week. And then you might find yourself in a deeper rut than you would have been if you would have just allowed yourself that. And as Black women especially, we have SBW, we have strong Black women syndrome. And we feel that we've got to take on so much and that we've got to shoulder so much. And that's just problematic for us, because right now this is almost unrealistic. And Glenn, to what you were saying, it's funny, I have adult clients and that's what they're complaining. The women are complaining. You know, my husband's used to being able to go to work hard, and come home and play a video game. And now it's all hands on deck. Now it's all hands on deck. Mom, might be teaching from 8 to 12. Dad's got to kick it in from 12 to 4. And then someone's got to get dinner on the table. And, by the way, someone's working from home at the same time. And this is almost an unrealistic thing that we're dealing with. And so for me, a lot of what it's been is just, tabula rasa, blank slate, right? Like just tabula, whatever the word is, blank slate. Whatever you thought was normal, whatever you thought was supposed to be, it's not. Just stick with keeping yourself healthy physically, keeping yourself healthy mentally and spiritually, taking care of your self-care. With all of my clients, the last, couple minutes of our session, no matter what we've talked about, I always bring it back to, what are you doing for self-care? We do a lot in session. We talk about, trauma. We talk about racism. We talk about mama issues and all these things. But what it always comes back to, in that last 10 minutes, I have got to hear what you're doing for self-care, because I gotta see you next week. I gotta make sure you're okay next week. And it's funny, I've had clients who are now like, I'm glad that you're okay this week, because we're all trying to hold each other together, professionals or not. We are all trying to support each other, or needing to support each other in a way that we're holding each other together, because when somebody snaps, I think it'll be a domino effect.
And think of, we've added this protest on top of it. This racial dynamic that has come on top of this COVID situation that we're in, I think is amazing. We have not only a time to come together, right? A time for different cultures and mindsets and people to open up and meld and research and kind of look into what is really going on. And we have those who are not, right? Who are shutting down. And again, it all goes down to the trauma of it all. There's so much trauma happening day to day. A protest can be traumatizing, right? To the right people, to different people. All of the situations that we're having, the police challenges. When you watch on TV and you see people protesting, and then there are people yelling hateful things, and the anger and it's bleeding, right? It's bleeding out of the TV into our real lives. It's bleeding into different things that we're seeing and interactions that we're dealing with our people. Tamika, you were talking about something you saw where literally people are just snapping. They're just snapping right now.
Yeah, I saw it was some video of a woman, I think in Long Beach, and I don't know the whole story, but what I saw was her like jump out of her car, run around the car, and like start yelling at this police officer in his car, and he eventually had to do what he had to do. But they were in the middle of an intersection, and I think people on the comment thread said she's probably on drugs, and I didn't see it. I thought, this is someone who has snapped, who's at their wit's end. They've been in their house with probably a 2-year-old or something for 4 months. And God bless anybody who's got a 2-year-old right now. I know a lot of people have twins. I have a cousin who's got twins right now. Like, God bless you all. And so that's it. Like, people are like, what do we do now? And with the reclosing, it took so many people's hope. So you brought them up here, then you brought them all the way back down. And so people are kind of like, what for now? Why? Why be sane? Why be logical? Why?
Do you guys think it was the mask? I think it was the lack of masks, that so many people did not wear masks, that made us go back into quarantine. I think that they felt that it had to have been safe when they thought about it, right? That we could go back out into society masked and we would be okay. Do you think that that it was the fact that there were so many of them that did not wear masks? I'm not going to say us because I wore a mask, but do you think that it was non-mask wearers that have us in this position of
So I actually think you're onto something there. And I think the point that needs to be brought out is that regardless of how aggressively we quarantine, we kind of shut it down. And anyone in the Inland Empire knows this, just literally looking at traffic patterns in the month of March and the month of April. But what I think ended up happening is that as Americans in our culture, we sort of have this internal clock going. If something is going to happen, it should be done in about 2 weeks. I should be able to cover it all with a vacation.
Start to finish.
Yeah.
And
Microwave culture, yeah, very individualistic microwave culture, and it's biting us in the butt right now.
it's biting us in the butt.
People aren't wearing masks.
That's a new kind of trauma that we have to endure.
Yeah.
I'm suffering longer than I've ever suffered in my life or my parents' life. Something's not right. I'm not going to obey the rules. The rules are broken. I'm not wearing a mask. Or the rules are broken. I'm going to go on some wild drinking binge with my buddies. And I'm an American, so I know I'm not going to be part of whatever percentage is being infected. It's not going to be me until you end up in the hospital and you've tested positive. So, sorry, but that, I guess, question to that is, we're supposed to be trauma informed, we're actually spreading the word. We went overboard. What happened to logic and rationale?
Politics got mixed up in there somewhere, right? I love being a clinician because politics sometimes is just like whatever, When a person's having a mental health crisis, they don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. But politics got mixed in there, people in the race and the George Floyd. And so then people needed something to stand up against, right? Because I think a lot of people felt that they were losing the fight of racism, in which, people were finally starting to be heard. And so I think a lot of those people who felt they were losing thought that this could be their last stand. I just won't wear a mask because I'm going to assert my independence and my right to be free as an American. But your freedom is costing everyone else their freedom. And like I've said before, I bet it's the people who have great health insurance who are out here without masks. And they're not thinking about the hospitals being full of people who they'll be mad at, but they're going to have to pay their bill. When your health insurance goes up next year, because we now have had to put the bill for all of these people that, we didn't feel like wearing a mask in front of. And not me either. But so how about the economic impact then when premiums are higher because of everything that Blue Cross and whoever else had to pay for when the people decided not to wear a mask. So I think, again, it's just that individualistic freedom reigns over, humanity kind of mindset that's got us back here.
Sure. What are your opinions about, what happened? How did we end up here?
I think that's it. Actually, it started before that. I think the protests, we were still in quarantine when the protests happened. So I think that the protests kicked it off, right? And I think that there were different sections, groups like, I think the Boston Marathon set off a hot spot, right? I think the Carnival in Louisiana set off a hot spot, right? So I think that was one of the things. At first we didn't know, so we were doing things that extended that hot spot. But then our leadership started having big events with no masks, and I think that kind of gives a mixed message. So I think that people there's a question in my house. Do you wear the mask or do you not? My husband doesn't think that there's a reason to wear the mask. I do. My husband wears a mask because he has to come home here and he wants his family to be safe. So he wears the mask for others. And I think that's one of the things that we have to look at it. If we individually don't believe in the magic of the mask, others do. And it has been proven that it does help us. It does protect us. So in wearing that mask, I don't think it should be a political statement. I don't think that it should be. I think that we should look towards our humanity and look at each other as humans and say, I'll wear my mask to protect you. And if not, let's do the trauma-informed version and say, let's wear the mask to protect me, right? Because in trauma-informed, we're saying that it's for us. So for me, my wearing my mask protects me from you, as well as my wearing my mask protects you from me.
Sure, I'm not going to let you put down your mental health professional's hat just quite yet, because I think in the process of serving and analyzing and understanding and getting content out, you're still a person that has needs. So as a mental health professional, and Tamika, you get time to practice this one because Shor's going first. How are you coping?
Some days I'm not. How about that? Some days I don't want to get up. Some days I jump out of the bed. Some days I have work to do and I'm excited. Some days I really don't have anything on my calendar and I'm depressed. Some days I'm anxious because there's a lot on my calendar. And now I'm like, oh my God, I got so much on my calendar. So every day is a new experience. I'm doing things like I listen to Calm or I listen to something at night because I have a problem sleeping. I listen to something, a story, so that I go to sleep at night. That is something that I do to relax my mind. I drink warm teas in the evening, teas that help with relaxation, different things that might be going on with my body. I read, I play games. I'll play video games, and I play games with my family. That really does help me. We have a PlayStation 4 and I have a VR, so we play virtual reality games, or we'll play Overcooked, which I'm horrible at. Things like that. I garden. I'm an avid gardener, so I go in my garden and I pick my plants. I have food bearing, so I pick my fruit and I pluck the weeds and I kill the insects, and I do those kinds of things to stay mentally well so that I can continue with the next day.
Tamika, what say ye?
Get up. I love that you mentioned garden. I finally got some tomatoes and they are so good. But that's been one for me. That's been a new one for me. I always told people I got a black thumb, and so I've got to really experiment and try some things out, and they're doing well. Because the gardening is cool, right? Because plants grow slowly. My tomatoes, they slowly they turn red, and it's almost like this slow reopening. It's nice to go outside and experience something that's moving slowly, like our world is, or our states are right now. And so that helps me, that calms me, that brings me back to a place of calm, of patience. So that's one of my big ones. I am an endorphin releaser. I exercise. I'm not like a runner though. I dance a lot. I dance to African music and I dance to gospel music. I dance until my hair is swinging in the air. I'm also a martial artist. And so I alternate between martial arts and I alternate between that and dance. So those are my two big ones. Checking in with my kids is really it. This is just really giving me a great time to appreciate the beautiful young ladies that I have raised. And so just checking in and knowing they're okay, knowing where they are, knowing that they can articulate and communicate where they are emotionally, that is a breath of fresh air for me. So I think those are kind of the main ones. I will say as a clinician, actually, I'm a part of 2 or 3 groups of clinicians on Facebook. And those have given me life. And there are some, it's called, I think, Black Girls Clinicians Collective. And what has gone on in there is just beautiful. Through the riots, through the everything, the support has been beautiful. I think we have a manifesto. We're not code switching anymore. We're not doing it. So, and a lot of them are not in private practice, and they're younger than me as well. And so they kind of say, we're not code switching anymore. That's how we're dealing with our mental health through this stuff. We're not doing it. You're going to get me. You're going to get these y'alls and all of that. And if you have a problem with it, you need to try to be bilingual the way I am. Learn Black English and standard English. So that's been a really big one for me, just being a part of those groups where we can come in. A lot of people are cutting off toxic clients. So I'm going to tell you now, if you're one of those clients who likes to play games and get like weird with your therapist and like kind of triangulate some stuff and you're talking to them and transferring like they your mama, cutting them off. Sorry. Our mental health is important right now too. And that is the honest to God truth, that there have been cutoffs. There were people who were cutting off some of their patients who they knew were racist. And I won't go too far into that. But there are people who just said, I cannot carry anymore. I cannot carry these patients who, want to ask me how I feel about X, Y, and Z in racism when you came to me to talk about your trauma. And so a lot of us are getting to a place where like it's bare bones. It's like you come to get this service, and if you come with some extra mess, no, thank you.
You know, that's one of the things that we're working on is working with those teachers and stuff, and working with school staff. I think we should have a conversation about that next time. School staff and how are they going to deal with this new school year that's going to be coming up?
Well, yeah, especially with, I think it's out now that it's maybe the president said or suggested that schools that do not fully reopen physically should lose funding.
That's funny, to see that get implemented. But just think of the mental stress of that right now, that the parents are hearing that and they're wondering how, when they don't go to work, if how are they going to get their kids? And most of the parents that I talk to are afraid of letting their kids go to school yet. They're like, yeah, I'm going to let y'all do that, and we'll wait, we'll wait a couple months and see how it goes. So,
well, and I think we have to have a conversation. That's just me. But if the Department of Education receives so many funds for children's bodies to be in schools and teachers to do certain things, and now I, as a parent, am taking an hour or so out of my day to do that, where's my compensation? And it's beautiful to say it's your kid, but it's not what I get paid to do, and I'm not necessarily very effective or proficient in it either. So for me to do
this one for the subsequent show, because I think this is going to be rich on so many levels. So I don't want to minimize it and don't want to give it away too soon. But you're absolutely right. That is the next horizon that's going to impact our community. And the most important thing here at TIPS IE and the work we're doing and the way we're impacting the community in multiple ways is in a position to help impact the way adults are going to transform into the new normal, and definitely way our youth is going to be able to mature into the new normal. With that, parting shots, Shor, Denny.
I want you guys to please like us, share, subscribe, and donate. If you go to communitynow.info, there's a donation tab right there if you think that what we're doing, that you'd like to support us and would like to give us some comments and even topics. I just ask you guys to just be strong. Right now, one of the main things that I do is breathe. I take some deep breaths. It's like a 7-4-3. You're going to breathe in, you're going to hold it for a few minutes, and then you're going to blow out. Make sure that you blow so that carbon dioxide gets out, all of that negativity flows out, and breathe in positivity. Try doing that when you're a bit stressed through the day, probably 15 times a day, and it will help all 15 times. So remember to breathe and to help maintain your mental wellness.
Yes, get oxygen to your brain so that it can function properly. So my 2 cents is day by day. Take it day by day. Like Shor, like you said, there are days that are low work, and there are days that are high work. And what I've learned is appreciate. Don't try to add stuff. You don't have to add stuff. There will be enough stuff for tomorrow. And so just take it day by day. Take your mental health, your emotions, your relationships, everything day by day. Go to bed, let it go, breathe it out, and wake up and start again. One of the most important things that has been helpful for me is establishing and maintaining a morning routine for the first 2 hours of my day. Just like any student in school, if you get them through that first hour or two of the day, you are going to have less behavior problems in the afternoon. So establish yourself some routines, stick to them, give yourself something to look forward to at least once a week. Let's get through this, y'all.
Again, thank you from TIPS IE.